The Baltimore Ravens get some unreal value on day 3. We talk about where they went right, where they went wrong in evaluating the 2025 rookie class in an instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here on this Saturday evening, Saturday night, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen of the day, or maybe it's your second if you listen to our instant reaction of day 2, or maybe it's your third if you listen to our bonus episode on Saturday. We have plenty of daily Ravens coverage for you. Monday through Friday is where we get you our 6 a.m. episode every single weekday. We also have bonus episodes on the weekends when it permits. Obviously, this is a pretty big weekend, so we have a lot of bonus episodes. We'll have one tomorrow as well. We also go live after every Ravens game and after every single piece of Ravens big news, like we are here today, or I guess tonight. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by LinkedIn. And LinkedIn jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. Man, just like that, snap your fingers. It's over. The draft is officially complete. As we're recording this, we're still getting some undrafted free agent news and notes. There's already one guy that I absolutely love the Ravens have brought in on the undrafted free agency front. But we're here to talk about the entirety of Baltimore's 2025 draft class. Now, we're going to start off with day 3 because that's the one that we haven't talked about yet. I haven't had a shot to react here yet on the show, so we'll go pick by pick on day 3. Then we will bring in the rest of the draft, talk about it as a whole, value, positions, roster holes also we'll talk about in the final part of the show. Do they have any more they have to address, maybe with a veteran or two? We'll dive into all of that as well. So plenty of conversation to get into here. The Ravens do end up with 11 picks. And so I ended up getting my handy dandy draft graphic. I threw that together before we hopped on the stream. And Abdi, appreciate you checking in. It was a long day. Look, I was flying all over the place. Locked On gave me the awesome opportunity to be a host on the clipping stations we do. So those shorter videos you saw of Malaki Starks and Mike Green on the Locked On Ravens YouTube channel, I hosted the other clipping station of that. And so that was an awesome thing. Did all of day 1, all of day 2. Then day 3, hopped on with Ken McCusick, with Bobby Trossett, who hosts The Vault, with Sarah Ellison. That was great. And I just popped off a Bleacher Report doing a live stream there. So I was running around. It's a hectic weekend, but it's a fun weekend. It's one of my favorite weekends of the year. And of course, now we're locking it down here on Locked On Ravens. Zeke, appreciate you checking in. KBZ, I agree, man. EDC was a great draft. So let's dive into it here. I'll get my graphic up and we'll jump right in. All right, the Ravens full draft. Ignore the first 3 for now. We will dive into that as the show goes on. Let's start off with 129 in the 4th round. Teddy Buchanan, linebacker out of California. Now, this is a pick for me. The positional value was not great. Now, if you know me and you've been listening to me on the show and just where my priorities lie, I'm not as big on positional value. Like, yes, don't take a kicker in the 1st round. Like, duh, that's not what I'm saying. But there were other players I probably would have taken over Teddy Buchanan here. It's not about Teddy Buchanan as a player, right? This, to me, I like the player. He was mocked in multiple mock drafts of mine over the course of the past couple of months. He is super athletic. He has great coverage ability, and I think that's what the Ravens need. That's the type of player they need to place around Roquan Smith. Roquan wasn't great the first half of the season for Baltimore, and the fact that they got him in the high level of production that Teddy Buchanan had at California. So he was UC Davis transfer, just for the background for people. Stats for him: 114 tackles, 12 tackles for loss. He had 5 sacks and 2 interceptions. So production all across the board. I think initially he'll be a backup when you enter training camp, but the belief in Trenton Simpson in the building, at least in my opinion, doesn't seem very high right now. And Buchanan could be someone that if he fits a better skill set next to Roquan and Trenton Simpson can't figure it out by the time the season starts. Look, this team lost Chris Board. They lost Malik Harrison. They lost Christian Welch. They have only added Jake Hummel, and we'll talk about the undrafted guy that I like at this position in a couple of segments. But I wouldn't be shocked if Teddy Buchanan pushes for early season snaps at linebacker, barring them bringing in somebody else. Now, what the Ravens also are probably going to do is they're not going to use two inside linebackers, true inside linebackers on the field at all times. Obviously, the Malaki Starks pick frees up Kyle Hamilton. That will allow for more dime looks, guys in the box, and you're only really going to need Roquan on the field for a lot of those, especially because Baltimore likes to go heavy DB packages. So it's not like the Ravens need two inside linebackers. Obviously, once Patrick Queen left, it opened up their flexibility to play a lot more heavy DB packages instead of needing two inside linebackers on the field at all times. But Buchanan, I still think with his coverage ability, something that Roquan struggled with last year, and a lot of the guys in the Ravens linebacker group struggled with last year, was just covering guys out of the backfield, tight ends, slot guys, running backs. Teddy Buchanan can give you that. Now, again, who would I have taken over Teddy Buchanan here? I think Joshua Farmer out of Florida State would have been a solid pick. Cam Jackson, the Florida defensive lineman, would have been solid as well. I'm not as up in arms as this as I think other people are. I just think the positional value wasn't the best, but the player himself I'm fine with because inside linebacker was a bigger need for Baltimore. Not first or second round or day one or day two, but definitely a bigger need than I think some people were making it out to be, which is fine if you didn't think it was. I don't blame you because, again, the positional value wasn't awesome. But Buchanan, I think, fits what Baltimore needed at that position. Now, here's where the first interesting, and I'd say the first really problem I had with the Ravens in the middle rounds is the middle rounds weren't great for Baltimore. This sequence, to me, was not awesome. They traded back 5 spots from 136 to 141. They got back 5 spots in a later round. That, to me, you lose value on that trade, and Baltimore also lost out on the ability to take Joshua Farmer and Cam Jackson and a couple of other guys. And maybe Baltimore thought that, one of those 2 guys will fall to us at 141. Let's try to move up a couple spots because we really like somebody. And instead, Farmer, who I think should have been a day 2 pick, Cam Jackson, who should have been an early day 3 pick, in my opinion, they both went. Now, the selection of Aeneas Peebles, ended up kind of definitely going all of, I guess with the defensive line in general. If they hadn't got Aeneas Peebles, would have made it hurt a lot more. But for me, I think the fact that they added him makes it a little bit, I don't know. It makes it a little easier to stomach, in my opinion. But again, I just didn't like the process there. If you're going to move back 5 picks in the 4th round, you need to make it a little bit more worth your while. I think only moving up 5 spots, it's essentially an even trade to move back 5 spots in one round and move up 5 spots in a later round, but those later round picks have less value. So you would have needed to move up more in that later round to have that be an actual thing that you benefited from, or at least broke even on, and Baltimore did not do that. So there was the Emory Jones selection, which I thought was a fine selection. I just thought they could have traded up for a Wyatt Malum using some of their additional draft capital. They did not. And then this process here of the fact that Baltimore did luck into Aeneas Peebles and Ronan Asia here. Yeah, they did get lucky with Peebles. I'm glad he fell to them, and that was definitely they lucked out. But I would have wanted a better process there, in my opinion, if we're talking about what the Ravens did. Now, at 141, that Titans pick, they added Carson Vincent, the offensive tackle from Alabama A&M. Definitely more of a developmental play here for Carson Vincent. He's 6'7", 315. So he is a massive, massive human being. He's a 5-year starter at Alabama A&M over there, and is actually the first player drafted there since 2011. Funny enough. So great player, I think. Great developmental piece. I probably wouldn't have double dipped here. It's not about the player. It's just about the position. And again, the fact that Joshua Farmer and Cam Jackson and some other guys, a couple of others went as well that I thought could have been really solid for them. Like Jalen Royals went. So, and of course the Chiefs got him. So that, of course, is just what happens. They don't need to play Carson Vincent. And every pick that you take is not going to be, especially on this Ravens roster, every pick you're going to take is not going to be an instant impact player for you. I think it's fine they took a developmental guy here. You can have him be mentored by Ronnie Stanley and by George Warhop, who did a great job after the unfortunate passing of Joe DeLisandris. And again, rest in peace to Joe D. But I mean, it was okay. This was an okay pick, in my opinion. Then you move to round 6, number 178, Bilal Cohn out of Western Michigan, a cornerback here. He's speedy, 4.43 speed, 190. He's not like the fastest guy ever, but he certainly has that element to his game. He's fluid with his hips and his feet, very fluid movements overall. He played in the slot a little bit at Western Michigan, but was primarily more of a outside guy. Like, that's where he's going to be considered probably at the NFL level, being he's 6'1", 190. You can never have enough corners here, and the Ravens felt confident in his movement ability and speed to add him. I just I think that this was, again, like it's an okay pick. It's not something I'm overly excited about, but you can never have enough corners. The depth helps, and while they could have gone in a couple different directions, they felt like they needed a corner. And as we'll get to as we move along here in the 6th round, this might spell the end for a certain corner on the Ravens roster right now. So we'll talk about that. Now, here's the intriguing pick of the round for the Ravens. Obviously, 186. That is Tyler Loop, kicker from Arizona. You've been listening to me on Locked On Ravens. I have been beating the drum. The Ravens are going to take a kicker in this class. They're going to do it. They're going to do it. They're going to do it. And they did it. It was not the kicker I was expecting. There was actually, I think the Patriots took a kicker before the Ravens did, so maybe they got a little antsy that the kicker run was coming and they wanted to secure their guy. Now, look, if there's a guy that evaluates kicker better than anybody in the league, it is Randy Brown, who is the Ravens kicker special teams guy. Tyler Loop is someone who has an NFL-ready leg. His career long is 62. He hit against Houston. He went 6 for 9 on 50-plus yard field goals in 2024. And obviously, this pick has a bit of a different feel. It's the first time in Ravens history they have taken a kicker in the draft. And for Tyler Loop, he will be in a competition with Justin Tucker. Now, there are a couple of ways this could go. I see people talking about, obviously, look, just a quick rundown with Justin Tucker. It's been a whirlwind year for him. He was atrocious on the field for the first 3 quarters of the season. It felt like the magic was gone. He recaptured that on-field magic in the back half of the season, was better. In fact, did not miss a kick in the final 4 games plus playoffs for the Ravens. But then obviously off the field, he is facing a handful of allegations. The NFL is conducting an investigation, and the Ravens are letting the NFL do their thing before making a decision, it feels like, on Tucker. So there are a couple ways this could go. Luke himself, I think, is a fine player, right? It's a fine pick. Would he be the kicker I would have taken? Probably like 2nd or 3rd for me. I know he was down on a lot of people's boards, but he was 2nd or 3rd for me. Here's my take on what could happen here. Number one is the Ravens could cut Justin Tucker as a post-June 1 cut. That would save them right around $4 to $5 million in cap space and give Tyler Loop the job outright. The other thing that could happen is the Ravens could have a pure competition and maybe Tucker wins it and they cut Tyler Loop and they decide Tucker, the investigation, whatever, they keep him on the roster. That's a whole different conversation. But again, they keep him on the roster and they cut Tyler Loop. That is a possibility. Now, you might be thinking, Kevin, they just drafted this kid in the 6th round. What the heck are you talking about? The Ravens have not been shy about cutting draft prospects in the Eric DeCosta era. It is a massive shift from what Ozzie Newsome employed when he was in charge. And obviously, Ozzie still has a role with the Ravens, but Eric DeCosta taking over as the head man. At the end of the day, for what the Ravens have done, you can mention guys like Caillou Luke Kelly, Ben Mason, Sean Wade. Those are 5th rounders that Eric DeCosta did not feel like were optimal on this Ravens roster. The Ravens might try to cut Tyler Loop and put him on a practice squad. I don't think he makes it there. It's possible, but I don't think so. I think that Loop maybe would have been drafted or have been a high-level priority undrafted free agent, so a team might try to scoop him up. Plus, we know in the preseason, there are plenty of teams trying to sort through their kicker competition, and if Tyler Loop has a great preseason, maybe a team does scoop him up. So at the end of the day, Loop's going to be really intriguing for what Baltimore has. And I just think that at the end of the day, Baltimore, they did fine with Tyler Loop. It's not like, in my opinion, they did anything super crazy with him, but it does add to the latest chapter in the Justin Tucker situation. So coming up in the second part of the show, we'll be diving into the remainder of Baltimore's day 3, plus diving into the entire draft as a whole for Baltimore. So be sure to stay tuned. We have plenty coming your way on Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by LinkedIn. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. And post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions, then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. Post your job for free at LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Saturday. I'm losing track of the days. I thought it was Sunday when I woke up today. Feels like a Sunday to me. I don't know why. It is Saturday. Undrafted free agent news still flowing in. We're going to dive into that in a bit as we dive into a tiny bit more of the Ravens draft as we round that out. Let's pull up the handy dandy graphic. Let me find it. I lost it for a sec. Here it is, handy dandy draft graphic. So we stopped with Tyler Loop. Let's now move on to Leonte Wester out of Colorado. Now, I think a lot of people see the height for Leonte Wester. They see the size. He's not a big dude, right? Not a big dude. He ends up being a player that comes in at under 6 foot and right around 163-ish pounds. So he's a slot guy. This, to me, was the Ravens' returner pick. It's been very evident and very obvious. The Ravens, ever since Jacoby Jones left Baltimore, and again, rest in peace to Jacoby. Whenever Jacoby Jones left, can't remember the year it was, but whenever he left, the Ravens have not been able to find a returner since. Leonte Wester at Florida Atlantic, his final year there before transferring to Colorado for last season. He had a big year, first of all, in the slot for them. 108 catches for 1,168 yards and 8 touchdowns. But the underrated part of that is he had 14 punt returns for 278 yards and a touchdown, 19.9 yards per return. He then followed up at Colorado with 9 returns for 108 yards, which is 12 yards per return. The Deontay Hardy thing didn't work out for Baltimore last season. He was injured. He wasn't able to get on the field. It just is what it is. I think that they took him here because they wanted a returner. Baltimore already has Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins, Tez Walker, and Tylan Wallace. I don't think you necessarily needed to add a guy that's going to play for you immediately. You could take the skill set of a returner and be okay. It would have been awesome if they were to get a guy like Nick Nash or Caden Prather or any of those guys, like bigger-bodied guys. Savion Williams is someone I really like for them in the middle rounds. But I understand their process. They add DeAndre Hopkins, who is a contested ball winner, and I think that they probably thought that that skill set was probably set with DeAndre Hopkins there. So they opt for the returner skill set, which I think is fine. I think Baltimore's receiver room is set. I would not touch it after this. Yeah, Leonte Wester in here. I think those are your 6 wide receivers. Wester, Flowers, Bateman, Aguilar's. Aguilar's not there anymore. It's Hopkins. And then obviously Tez Walker and Tylan Wallace. Yeah, Nelson. I don't even know if Nelson Aguilar's. I don't think Nelson Aguilar's even signed anywhere yet. So might tell you a story about where Nelson Aguilar is going to be. Next up on the draft board, this is my favorite pick of the day. I've mentioned it. It's Aeneas Peebles out of Virginia Tech. This is a guy that I thought was a 3rd-round prospect, and the Ravens get him at 210. It's insane value, best value of the day by far, not best value of the draft. That obviously is Mr. Mike Green himself. But Aeneas Peebles brings you so much as a pass rusher on the interior, getting to the quarterback. Over the course of his career, Aeneas Peebles had the production, especially over his final 2 years. First of all, he transferred in from Duke. He was a Duke transfer, played 2024 at Virginia Tech. Now, 11 and a half sacks for him in his career is not going to necessarily blow you away. But you look at some of the production numbers that he had, the pass rush win rates and others as well. He blew defensive linemen out of the water with this. You can look at him. He's the only defensive tackle with 90-plus pass rushing grades in each of the last 2 seasons, according to PFF. He had a 91.2 pass rush grade in 2024, which led all defensive linemen that were qualifiers. So sometimes the stats are unpredictable and unreliable, right? unpredictable and unreliable. I think that Peebles is going to come in and be a solid rotational piece. Honestly, if we want to go bold predictions right now, my bold prediction would be that Aeneas Peebles is Baltimore's third best defensive lineman this season. Because personally, we haven't seen a ton from Broderick Washington, and I think that Matabike and Jones are going to have great seasons. I think that Peebles could really come in and make a huge impact on this Baltimore interior pass rush, especially because while Michael Pierce wasn't like the most flashy pass rusher in the world, I still think Baltimore does need a pure run stuffer on this team right now. Travis Jones can give you that. Peebles is not going to give you a ton, at least not to the level Pierce would in that category. Still think Baltimore has a lot of options there when it comes to that. So I think that Peebles was the steal of the third round for Baltimore. It really isn't close in my opinion. And he's the guy that I'm most excited about. I thought for sure, I thought he'd be gone by the time Baltimore honestly was on the board, maybe even at 186. Like I thought he might be gone even by 178. Baltimore got a steal there. And Aeneas Peebles is my favorite pick of the third day for Baltimore. 212 was another one people really like in Robert Longerbeam out of Rutgers, a corner that I thought could have been an early to mid day 3 guy. They get him at 212, 2 picks after Aeneas Peebles, where Longerbeam is someone who projects more so in the slot, right? He's more so a slot guy, I would say, as Baltimore is looking for options at corner. Now, here's what I want to say here about Robert Longerbeam. Him and Cone coming in together probably spell the end of Jalen Armour-Davis. I'm just going to say it outright. I do not think Jalen Armour-Davis will make the roster in 2025. I just think it's been too long. He hasn't shown anything. I think that it's done. I think it's over. And you look at the Ravens cornerback room right now. They added 2 guys today. It's Cone and Longerbeam, and then you have obviously Humphrey, Wiggins, Awuzie, TJ Tampa. So that's 6 guys, and we didn't even mention Jalen Armour-Davis. I think Armour-Davis could maybe be a practice squad guy, but I think that they could hypothetically keep 7 corners. It is possible. I'm not saying it's out of the equation for Baltimore, but I think that they might need maybe an extra offensive lineman, an extra defensive lineman, extra edge. They currently have 6 edge guys, which I think 4 or 5 is the optimal amount there. And KB's, yeah, I hear you. Look, you can never have enough corners, right? That is an Ozzie Newsome staple. You can never have enough corners. So I think that if they do keep 7, it would not shock me. But they also might keep 5 safeties, in which case maybe that's a problem that you have. Can you afford to keep 12 defensive backs on your roster? Maybe it's just 4 safeties. Maybe that's just what it is. Maybe they see Ardarius Washington Moore as a nickel, and they feel like they can move around with taking 1 less corner. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, Baltimore, I thought it was solid with Longerbeam. I think a lot of people were excited about that pick. And then finally, I honestly thought they should have traded this pick. But lastly, at number 243, Garrett Dellinger is a selection, another offensive lineman out of LSU. So he reunites with Emory Jones. You got a couple of LSU guys coming to Baltimore. I mean, this is it's a fine pick. You know, it kind of is what it is here. I think that maybe how you look at this offensive line group is Dellinger and Nick Semek are probably competing for 1 spot. So they didn't really take a pure guard, and Dellinger kind of fills that role for them. So it is what it is, but Baltimore does take all 11 picks. They did trade a little bit. They maneuvered a little bit. We're going to see. But at the end of the day, I thought Baltimore did really well. So coming up in the final part of the show, we will dive into overview of the entire class. We'll get into an undrafted free agent update, evaluate the roster a little bit as well. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot coming your way on Locked On Ravens, instant reaction live edition of the show. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. And I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From 3-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head on to FanDuel.com right now and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. We are back on Locked On Ravens, wrapping up our Instant Reaction Live edition, coming to you after day 3. It's officially over. You know, we spend months and months and months. You know, you scout college teams, you watch tape, you watch film, you do mock drafts, and all of a sudden After 3 days, it all comes to a screeching halt. We now know the entirety of Baltimore's draft class. I appreciate everybody for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day here, a part of your night. Appreciate you spending some of your Saturday night with me here on the show. We'll be back here tomorrow with a bonus episode of the show. We'll be doing some draft grades, official draft grades from me, so be sure to catch that episode tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Eastern time. And again, we're a 5-day-a-week Daily Ravens podcast, so every Monday through Friday, we bring you that Daily Ravens coverage. I've been doing this since 2019 in August. My first ever episode, speaking of undrafted free agents, was about Kari Vedvik, so a blast from the past there for people who have been keeping up with the team since then. And of course, I've been keeping up with this team forever, man. My entire life, I've been keeping up with this team, and I'm really excited about the draft that Baltimore had. So thank you out there to all the everydayers who are tuning in every single day, to the first-time listeners. Appreciate you checking in for the first time, and to the people who are in the middle, appreciate you as well. Tell a friend, tell a family member, and subscribe in both video form and audio form. Appreciate all support here. Nasty, appreciate you. Chef, it was awesome chopping up with Bobby on the vault as well. It was really fun being able to hop on with him and talk about the draft as well. So let's just pull up the graphic one more time here as we kind of round this thing out, or maybe we'll pull it up a couple more times. Here's the graphic, the Ravens full 2025 draft. You got Malaki Starks at number 27 in the first round. Then they get Mike Green at 59. Emory Jones Jr. in the third round at 91. Teddy Buchanan, linebacker from California at 129. 141, Carson Vinson out of Alabama A&M. 178 is Bilal Cohn out of Western Michigan. Tyler Loop, kicker, 186 out of Arizona. Leonte Wester, 203 out of Colorado, wide receiver. Aeneas Peebles, D lineman from Virginia Tech at 210. Robert Longerbeam, 212 corner from the Rutgers program. And also Garrett Dellinger, LSU offensive lineman at 243. Here's how I feel about this class. The value in the first two rounds was so insane to me, especially Mike Green. Mike Green is going to be the make or break player in this class. And I mentioned this on the live stream we had last night after day 2. I also talked about it on the show this morning. There has not been a player, maybe in Ravens history, and maybe that's a stretch, but at least in recent memory for me, that has upgraded my feeling on a positional group more than Mike Green did with this edge group. It just is what it is. The fact that they were able to get him at 59, because once Malaki Starks went to 27, again, I was looking around the edge room and I was like, all right, who's going to be available at 59? Is there going to be a player that truly gives them an instant impact, like star stud potential guy? I didn't include Mike Green in that conversation because, one, I didn't think he'd be there at 59. I thought he'd be gone. And two, I didn't know if the Ravens were actually going to go with him with all the stuff that has been surrounding him, the off-field concerns. I was wondering if he was if the Ravens were one of the teams that had him off of their board. Clearly, they felt comfortable enough with everything they did and their research and whatnot, talking to Green, talking to everybody. They felt comfortable enough to take him, and that just is what it is. But on the field, Mike Green, and this is my bold prediction, 5 years from now, Mike Green will be the best pass rusher in the AFC North and one of the best in the entire NFL. And that obviously is going to come with the TJ Watt fall off. I think Myles Garrett is going to fall off a little bit as well here. Guys can't run forever. And I think that Mike Green is the future of the pass rushing position, not only for the Ravens, but in the AFC North. He's a guy that is extremely, he's wired, man. He has a high motor. He does 110% every single play. He's incredible both against the pass and against the run. This is a player to me that is going to make or break this draft class. Not that Malaki Starks doesn't have that make or break potential too, because I think Malaki is going to be awesome. He's versatile. He fits in their system. I think it allows them to move Kyle Hamilton around. And I've talked about Emory Jones as well a little bit and what I think about him, and I thought it was a fine pick. But the fact that Mike Green has so many devastating pass rushing moves, the fact that he's built the way he is, has the athleticism that he has, and just overall is the player that he is on the field, this was an absolute home run pick. 59 it's again, the Ravens get 2 top 15 players at 27 and 59 respectively. That is unreal. Emory Jones was a fine pick, right? Again, I liked it. He was on my short list of guys that I would have taken at 91 at the offensive lineman spot. Would have loved it if the Ravens traded up for Wyatt Malum. I thought it was a mistake they didn't. But with the guys that were available, Emory Jones, Charles Grant, Marcus Bowe, I thought it was fine. He was on my short list, which is fine. And then you look to the 4th round. Again, got a little dicey for them in the 4th round. Again, Teddy Buchanan was a fine player, in my opinion. Positional value wasn't necessarily there, but that's okay. I didn't like the trade back. I've been pretty vocal about that. Was not a fan. That was probably my least favorite move of the day, was the trade back. You had a couple corner prospects. You get your defensive linemen as well. And this is the beauty, I think, of having the defensive line class. And again, they kind of lucked into it a little bit, but this is the beauty of having the defensive line class be as stacked as it was across the board in the NFL, is because teams were taking D linemen and they didn't want to double dip. And I think that caused people to slide a little bit. Baltimore didn't take a D lineman. They were addressing other needs. Then they go out there and they get a guy who, in my opinion, should have been a 3rd or 4th round pick. So that was awesome to me, the fact that they were able to get him. Kicker was something I thought they were going to take. I expected them to double down on no lineman. Triple down, I'm not so sure about. Like, okay, that's fine. I personally think they should have traded the 7th round pick away. I think 10 would have been a very sweet spot to end this draft. But I see the comments, and I've seen them about, are the Ravens going to actually keep 11 rookies on their roster? The answer immediately to me is probably no. Maybe the Ravens couldn't find a deal they liked. I mean, Eric Costa himself admitted it'd be kind of hard to find a way to get all 11 guys on the roster. But I think what that might mean is we might see some surprising roster cuts. And so if you're tuning in live or tuning in after the fact, both video form and audio form, I'm going to give you my initial predictions for roster cuts that might have value. Maybe to some people, maybe not to others, but these are guys that I think will not make the roster here in 2025. I think Rasheed Ali is gone. I don't think they keep 4 running backs this year. I think Keaton Mitchell, they feel more comfortable with where he is this season. I think Ali didn't really show them a ton last year. I think they're going to need that extra running back spot, especially if they want to try to keep as many of these draft picks as possible. So, I mean, I don't think Ali makes it. I don't think Nick Samek makes it this year, or Dellinger. One of those two is not going to make it. One of Tucker or Loop will not make it. I think Jalen Lamar Davis will not make it. Other than that, though, you have a competition maybe at edge. Maybe David Ojabo is someone that gets moved on from. I don't think keeping 6 edge rushers is viable, in my opinion. I think it'll be probably between Ojabo and Adisa Isaac, and I just think that Isaac has more upside at this point. Like, Ojabo has super high potential, but you can't bank on that, and I just don't think that if he doesn't show you anything in the preseason or in training camp, and who knows, maybe he will, I just don't think, and I've mentioned this, if you've been listening to me on Locked On Ravens, I've kind of teased the fact that I'm not sure Ojabo makes the roster this season. That's a prediction where I'm not going to go out and flat out say he's not going to make the roster. I think that would be irresponsible, but I think that there is a legitimate possibility. And I see the fact that Mesak here is saying Ojabo needs to be traded. That might be the best course of action for them. I agree. If he doesn't show anything to you, maybe a team will bank on the upside or just feel like they can be the one that unlocks that potential. So we will see. I'll do my full draft grades again on tomorrow's show, so be sure to stay tuned for that. We'll go position by position, player by player, talk about that. I'll give a full draft grade. And Joe and I agree with this. They're going to play Ojabo a lot in the preseason to try to get something for him. Maybe if it is just to up the value for him. So that'll be what it is there. I think roster-wise, you're in a pretty solid spot. I would like to see them add one more defensive lineman. I think I saw a comment earlier about if the Ravens will add anybody in free agency at that position. I have the defensive line free agents up right now, and if any of these names are intriguing to you, maybe they can work. It's guys like Raekwon Davis, Austin Johnson, Linval Joseph, Jonathan Hankins, Taven Bryant, Mo Hurst, Jordan Phillips, Brent Urban is on this list. If you want to bring him back for the 15th time, you can do that. Kyle Pecco is another one. Khalil Davis. I'd be okay with like a Mo Hurst. Joseph is intriguing, and he's going to be like 37 by the time the season ends. So I don't know how much he has left in the tank, if we're being honest. But maybe it is just bringing Brent Urban back. I don't know. And there aren't a lot of guys there that intrigue me. Maybe the Ravens want to wait till roster cut down day to figure that out. We'll see. I'm not sure. And yeah, this is the one that got away here. I think for Dunn saying we really wanted Calais back didn't happen. Calais would have solved a lot. I think Peebles would have been that perfect guy to slide in with Calais Campbell. Then you have a rotation of Matabike, Washington, Jones, Campbell, and Peebles. Would have been awesome. So I like it. Yeah, I think Urban would be fine to have back. I think that might be the route that they go. We will see. The Ravens, we know they're not done adding yet. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I do want to get into a list of some undrafted guys that have signed or reportedly been signed with the Ravens. And I don't have all of these. I've been trying to peruse through Twitter to find them. And I'm going to pull up an undrafted free agent tracker. So you have Jason Jones, Auburn defensive lineman. I love Jay Higgins out of Iowa. He was a guy I had for them in like the 5th or 6th round. I think that's awesome. Jay Higgins going to Baltimore. Chandler Martin, who is also a linebacker, he's going to the Ravens. He was one of the top guys available. So at least one of these undrafted linebackers is going to make the roster because of the way that their position is right now. It's Roquan. It's I can't even, who's the guy that's Jake Hummel? I'm trying to remember the name. Jake Hummel was the guy that they signed. And then obviously with their draft, they added a linebacker in Teddy Buchanan. So I think it's those three right now. You have to probably have one or two of those undrafted guys make the roster, and then quickly undrafted Ravens tracker. Let's see if there's anything else. All right. We got Desmond Igubenuson. I butchered that. I apologize. Out of Rutgers. Jason Jones, I mentioned as well. So, yeah, just ticking in, it feels like. Not a ton. Here are others as well. Offensive lineman Gerald Christian Lichtenhan from Oregon State. Marcus Major Jr., Minnesota. Devon Black, Temple. Sam Pitts, Minnesota Duluth. DeAndre Jackson, Illinois State. Reed Holsky, Miami of Ohio. Towson linebacker, Nichibanu Forbiboa is on here as well. There's confirmation on those two still looking to be confirmed for apparently, so we will see on that. So, yeah, I mean, look, solid guys. I really like the two linebackers. I think that'll be really solid for them overall. So that's all I have here again on Locked On Ravens. Appreciate everybody for tuning in to the channel and to the show. We had 3 awesome live streams. We'll have another bonus episode coming out tomorrow. Then we'll be back for our regularly scheduled program Monday through Friday on Locked On Ravens. So be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form, follow along in audio form, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow doing our draft grades on Locked On Ravens.